Tom.
Back again, Joy.
Yeah. So let's talk about some interesting news stories, some of the feedback we've gotten from clients. Want to do a shout out to Sarah Shaw, who just got engaged. She's doing her destination wedding in Morocco.
Oh my gosh, that is pretty exotic.
And that's something that we sort of specialize in, so I thought I'd pass along to a few people. There's some really great places we're getting feedback on. The Cabo San Lucas, the Rio property there, does some great destination weddings. The Now Jade Resorts, we're doing a couple weddings. I want to say congratulations to Kate on her wedding that's coming up, and Amanda Miller, who's doing her destination wedding at the Dreams in Punta Cana. Speaking of Dominican Republic, Tommy.
We're on our way.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of times.
Going back to the La Romana part, those of you who love the Dominican Republic and you're looking for a different spin, La Romana is about an hour and 15 minutes from Punta Cana.
Right.
Unique area, settled by Italians mostly, or?
Well, yeah, it's just an influx of European tourists started coming down to the La Romana area, Casa de Campo, Teeth of the Dog golf course, one of the great ones. So it's Americans are relative newcomers to the Dominican Republic compared to Europeans.
Yeah, and I guess we should also talk about, this is the time of the year where people are thinking about family vacations and so on. And I think a spot we really want to talk about just a little bit is Jamaica, which you actually lived in Jamaica for
From Jamaica, me come from, man.
Yeah, for what, 4 or 5 years?
4 or 5 years.
Oh, we're getting another accent,
yes,
everyone.
Exactly. Huh?
Oh, here we go.
I'm channeling Bob Marley. Anyway, yeah, well, I was a kid. When we lived there, my father was in the hotel business and have loved Jamaica ever since. I mean, it's gone through a lot of changes, some good, some bad, but I can always go back to Jamaica.
And I think it makes, now that there's Iberostar and the Rio brand and the Grand Palladium brand, I think people are more comfortable doing family type trips there.
Yeah,
and family travel, as we're getting into the summer months, is one of the things that I think anyone who has done one, and we'd really like to hear from you, it's such a great memory that you really should plan to do that. We just did a big birthday trip for Art Budden and his family. There were, 15, 20 of them who went on the Oasis of the Seas. And he said exactly what you said. You have to go on that ship. And for multi-generational families, something like an all-inclusive in Jamaica or the Oasis of the Seas or the Allure of the Seas are just really ideal places to reconnect with your kin.
Exactly, and you can't have a more perfect family vacation. From kids to grandparents, everyone finds something to do at these all-inclusives, and no worries about dinner bills or bar bills or any of that sort of thing. So they're really popular, and Jamaica is one of the leading destinations for all-inclusives. And you mentioned Iberostar and Grand Palladium and Rio properties. They're calling it the second Spanish invasion of Jamaica, but it's really brought a lot of great opportunities there.
Well, and another thing that I really want to stress on this show is that what the great value is, or the life-enhancing experience travel is. And this year I'm having a big birthday, next year you're having a big birthday, and then the year after that's our 30th wedding anniversary. So our tradition, and we'd like to make it your tradition, is that you celebrate those birthdays, special occasions, with a great trip. And I mean, it can be an overnight in Chicago, but
it just makes the memories more poignant, and it's just, there's nothing wrong with getting out of town for a birthday, especially.
So you want to hear my lead picks, what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking of Istanbul.
I know.
Or Morocco.
Okay.
I'm thinking about Nepal. And Bali's kind of on my list too.
Right, well, that's all over the globe.
But as you know,
narrow it down, Jay.
But as you know, it's time of the year too. My birthday's in July, so it kind of changes it, whereas your birthday's in September next year, so we have some other options. I wanted to do a shout out too to Steve and Denise Flanders, who are on their honeymoon in wonderful South Africa, where they're spending 4 days at a great game park, game viewing, and then down to the Cape.
Yeah, and he's missing the bungee jump.
Oh, can you, Tom, as most of you know from the picture behind us, I was Tom talked me into bungee jumping.
And I
in South-
bungee in our opening.
Exactly,
Why
in
didn't
our
somebody tell
opening.
me my butt was so big?
But I mean, now, I mean, you turn on the news and you see that bungee break.
Oh, gosh, and it looked exactly like what we did, and ours was higher and drier. There was just a trickle of it, so had that
Death was
happened
imminent in our case,
we
that's
would have
for
been
sure.
a grease spot.
Yeah, so there's something I'll never do again.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Yeah,
Me neither.
and you did the great white shark dive. So
Right.
if South
Edgy.
Africa's on your list, we'd love to talk to you about it. But believe it or not, we're out of time.
Again.
Yeah,
Okay.
so thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Winter has passed, spring is upon us, and that means a few things. However, only one of those things actually matters, and it's baseball. Lucky for you, one hot spot in Lansing can satisfy that craving for peanuts and Cracker Jacks and so much more. Welcome to the Cooley Law School Stadium, home of the Lansing Lugnuts.
2 tickets for tonight? Okay.
For those who love baseball, the Cooley Stadium is a no-brainer. For those who aren't big fans of the game, the stadium has been designed to provide much more than just a show. Since the stadium's establishment in 1996, its surrounding area has developed into a real stadium district.
Now all around the entire area, there's a dueling pianos bar, there's a coffee bar, there are terrific restaurants and bars and pubs, clubs, and all sorts of places for families and folks to go to, business people and young adults and young professionals. It's really a terrific area to hang out whatever time, whatever hour, whatever day of the week.
And if none of those options make for a good afternoon, the stadium serves as a sensational place to pass the time. You can enjoy a gourmet hot dog while spending your time at the stadium's beer garden any day of the week. You can come out for fireworks night, ladies' night, kids' days, various nights with drink specials, and even live concerts.
As far as what we want our fans to experience and what we want them to expect, we want them to expect a good time because we can't control the baseball part. We don't know who our players are going to be. We hope that we'll have good players, but if our players are doing really well, then they'll get promoted up to another level and all the way up to the majors by the Blue Jays. And so because we can't control that, we want to make sure that their experience here is as terrific as possible.
So the next time boredom sets in, try something new and exciting by enjoying a game at the Cooley Law School Stadium. They cater to just about every crowd, and a good time is guaranteed. This has been Zachary Pena, and I hope to see you at the Cooley Law School Stadium.
Well, just as we talked about, everyone's so interested in Turkey, and we just had a chance to touch on Istanbul. So Brett Dreyfus is a trustee at Meridian Township who had quite an honor in being selected to go to Turkey. He's going to talk to us about after he left Istanbul and some of the things that he did in Turkey. Thank you so much, Brett.
I'm very glad to be here and to share the great experiences to build better understanding between different cultures. It's just
I think
great
people
thing
are
to do.
prejudiced about Turkey.
Midnight Express, the movie.
Well, and from my experience with coaching travelers, there's a certain amount of, oh, isn't it dangerous?
Right. It's not at all. It's totally safe. There's crime everywhere in the world. Turkey, to me, I felt safer than many of the places I've been. I was there
agree.
I was up at all hours of the day and night, all over the place. And they said, like any place, you have to be careful in some situations, but
Certainly.
it was very safe and not to worry.
But judging it on a par of other places in the world, I felt, as you said, as safe, in fact, in some cases safer.
And I was helped out by strangers in situations where I got lost or needed things. I had no problem. People do speak English, and some more than in other places, but people are generally willing to help.
And they're generally interested in having you have a good experience,
they are.
I've observed. So tell us what happened after you left
Okay,
Istanbul. What did you find about the rest of Turkey?
What I found is we flew to a couple of different cities. We went to Ephesus, which is a historical city that actually many Greek and Roman ruins are found there. And it was fascinating to see how the Greeks built their city and why they did it, because of the way the mountains were set up and because of certain geographical considerations. They had to do certain things. Then the Romans came and they had to do things because of changing times, and they build things differently and they try to improve on the Greeks. And you learn why in those days actually the poor people lived up high. The rich people lived low because you didn't want to have to climb up and down those hills. Plus to get water and food was a pain. So poor people lived high up.
I didn't know
And
that.
now, and in today's society, we reversed it, so it's kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
That's Ephesus. Now, there's also Cappadocia. We flew to there, which is more
And
in
I'm
the
sorry,
central
in
part.
Ephesus, don't they say that the Virgin Mother lived in somewhere around Ephesus?
Yes, there was.
Did you have a chance to see that, or?
Yes, we did. We went
Did
to
you?
where she had a house that was.
Yeah.
There was a house that she supposedly lived in. There's let's just say that there's a lot of lore and myth and
I
legend
thought I remembered
all
that.
intertwined in it. But it makes for an interesting, again, experience because all that intertwining of myth and lore comes over hundreds of years, so it's just fun.
Who's to say, right?
I call it fun rather
Yeah,
than
exactly.
it's fun.
So from there you
went to Cappadocia.
Now, I've always heard so much about that. Tell me about it.
Now that's one of the places that we may see in historical things, or you're on the internet and you click, you may see this one might pop up when they talk about things in Turkey. Because Cappadocia is very historic. There's an underground city that was built first possibly 1000 BC. People first lived 1 or 2 levels below the ground for various reasons, maybe because of potential attackers and armies coming through, for maybe who knows what other reasons. And over time, early Christians that took that underground city because of trying to avoid persecution. And so in the 1st century AD, they started moving deeper down. So first it was only 2 stories down, and then it went down to about 10 levels deep.
I didn't even know about
An
this.
underground city. It's world famous. Archaeologists, people still come there to study
And where
this.
is that from? Like, Istanbul, say, is up here, and Ephesus is...
kind of southeast, maybe more towards the center part of the country.
Interesting.
Yes. And then and then there's also a place, there's interesting topographical features, as you had pointed out, in called the chimney fairies. These are huge structures that are near the underground city that come up, and they look sometimes like huge mushrooms on top with, like a mushroom has a thin stem and then a big cap. That's the way these structures are, but these structures are hundreds of feet tall.
Are they're natural
They're naturally
structures.
formed.
And what are how is that?
They're made out of some of the basalt, I think, is some of the hardest stuff, and then they have pumice stone, which is soft. And monks dug out holes in this, and they developed cave systems inside where they worship. So early Christians then went in this area and they built monasteries, and they lived kind of ascetic lives. And there's incredible murals in there, and you can take pictures of some of these things inside, and they have very interesting depictions of Jesus and other people. And this came within, some of these people were within a lifetime or 2 of Jesus. So it's interesting seeing these pictures and the symbols and how people were holding their hands in certain ways.
And you did all of that travel by air?
That was by air through the city. We travel from city to city each day. We were on a very tight itinerary. So we fly from one city to the next. Then we flew to Konya. Konya is a religious city. It's more of a city where Rumi, who is a famous Sufi, was born and began his practice. Sufi is a mystical form of Islam. And it's more emotional and more perhaps joyous because people, the whirling dervishes, that started the whirling dervishes movement.
I wondered about that. I was going to ask you about that.
So they get into an ecstatic trance state by moving around, and then they feel closer to divinity by having both this movement and the worshipful attitude and their semi-ascetic lifestyle. And so the Rumi wrote a famous book of poetry that is now, almost like a college standard. If you're trying to impress somebody, you're going to give your girlfriend this book of Rumi poetry, because it's like he compares many of his poems towards God could be applied towards maybe your beloved person. So it's one of these that's good crossover between romantic poetry and spiritual poetry.
And culturally and politically and even in terms of food and wine, is that unique to each part of Turkey like
Absolutely,
it is?
very
Really?
good. It's like Turkey's 6 different types of countries in one. The country, let's say the country looks like a rectangle. It's not exactly, but kind of. You can divide the rectangle in half and then in 3 parts. So you really have like a coastal region, southern coastal region, which I didn't go to.
Which is like beaches
and it's rocky crags and beautiful water and boating
kind of like
and fishing.
the Mediterranean or
lifestyles
Greek islands and that kind of thing.
Then there's north of Istanbul, which connects right by Bulgaria. There's several islands, and those are wine-producing islands. So that's like Greek island type of living.
Do they export any of that wine, or can you get it here?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can get it here, though. I don't know
noticed it,
about
yeah.
that. Turkish wine. And then there's the central part of Turkey is very different. It's very mountainous. Northern Turkey is snowy. You can go skiing. And then eastern Turkey is the political hot button because it's next to Iraq, Afghanistan.
Oh, that's why people
Lebanon,
are frightened.
Lebanon, and then below that, of course, you have Crete, which is owned split by Turkey and by Greece. It's 2 countries in
I'd
one.
forgotten about that.
So there's so much political stuff going on in Turkey. We spent a whole program talking about that.
Hasn't it?
Forever.
I mean, really, It's just such an important part of the world.
And also, it got to say too, though, it is kind of expensive. It's surprisingly expensive in Turkey because of the exchange rate is favorable to America, but still things are expensive there because the price of gas is so expensive. So it causes price inflation in other areas. Gasoline is very, very expensive there, so you don't really drive. You take mass transit everywhere.
And I think they're going to the euro now.
They are the euro.
When
They're a dual standard. They accept the euro, they accept Turkish lira, and dollars are pretty much
So
universally.
Turkish lira is still accepted, huh?
Yes, they do, and that's all I
Interesting.
used. I didn't use
Oh,
any
well,
liras.
I'll tell you, Brett, I can't tell you how much I learned from doing these interviews and how much I appreciate it because, as I always said, nobody wants to listen to your travel stories other than your travel agents. So I'm sure all the information that you gave to everybody in the community and what you've shared with me, I can pass on and share with
Excellent.
other people too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time, and we'll be back right after this.
If you haven't donated blood before, or it's been a long time since you have donated, please come out. 97% of us will either need blood or know someone who needs blood in our lifetimes. That's almost all of us. Plus, blood is used for premature infants, patients battling cancer, people with sickle cell anemia, as well as many others. Did you know that less than 5% of the eligible population, meaning those that would be good candidates to donate blood, actually do? That's about 95% of people who could donate that aren't doing it. You never know when you or someone you love will need blood. Blood is perishable and only has a shelf life of 42 days. You can donate every 56 days, 6 times a year. Please come out and donate and give the gift of life.
Faith, we were talking about in some previous shows the opportunities of destinations during this season like Bermuda and like Alaska. But one thing that's become extremely popular is cruising in Europe. And what I think Royal Caribbean has that's unique to that market is you offer the opportunity for people to be able to do 7 days.
Right.
You have some longer itineraries, and the 2 itineraries that I sell and get great feedback on are the round trip from Venice and the round trips from Barcelona. Both great cities to start and end in.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think that those are also speak to us working people that, of course, you'd like to be gone 10 or 12 days, but again, it's time as well as being away from your business and that kind of thing. So these 7-day itineraries give you a chance to unpack once and see as many as 3 or 4 countries. The Barcelona itinerary that I've done personally that I love and sell constantly was Barcelona, then you do the south of France, which is Nice, Monaco, Cannes, and then Florence, Rome, all the way down to Naples and back to Barcelona in a 7-day itinerary.
And didn't you feel relaxed?
Oh, and dollar for dollar, it's just an unbelievable value. I was saying to a client the other day, you're talking about $200 or $300 a day per person. Transportation, meals, accommodations, entertainment, and it's great for families.
Yes.
Because you're not going to drag your kids around Europe for 7 days without them just being annoyed.
Exactly. And I love it that you keep saying transportation, because the ship, that is another element of the value of going to Europe, is the transportation.
Well, I know what it is to rent a car if you're if you're even amenable to that, but rail passes. I mean, you have to invest in transportation.
Exactly. And Europe is absolutely wonderful. And I think the other unique component about cruising to Europe on Royal Caribbean is the opportunity to get a chance to touch and feel and smell the culture. And then if you want to go back and immerse yourself and stay for a week in Rome or in Cannes, you can do that.
That's really a significant point. I even talk about that in the Caribbean. In 7 days, you can see 4 islands and pick one that you might like to go and invest a whole week in.
Right. That's what cruising does for you. And I have done my fair share of land-based vacations, and they're great. But I do find that moving from hotel to hotel, did I leave something behind? Just the physical wear and tear of just packing things up.
How about the time? As I said to people, every time you move, that day to me is a working day.
Exactly.
It's not a travel enjoyment day. Yeah.
And we were talking earlier about the sea is calling, answer it royally, and how when you stand on deck and you welcome these new ports of call, it's just so exciting to take it in from the sea perspective.
Well, I just had a lady that actually is booking a Royal Caribbean cruise out of Venice. Her son's working in Munich, and she was saying that it cost her $1,200 for 2 nights in Venice. So, I mean, when you figure,
it's so
your ship
much.
is your hotel.
Exactly. The real point is the value of cruising. And Europe is so exciting and so magical that a cruise on Royal Caribbean is the most ideal way. Enjoy, we have 12 ships in Europe this year. So there's an itinerary, there's a port of call that's speaking.
Yeah, there's some really cool ones. I've got a client by the name of Marshall Kosman. He's taking his 3rd Baltic cruise of yours. He's one of your, you know, I think he's taken 12 or 13, whatever class of captain that is with you. But your Baltic cruise just keeps calling him back.
I think Royal Caribbean really has a unique approach to Europe. We have the most modern large vessels as well as the small intimate vessels.
Yes.
And
what are those classes? The small ones are in the
Voyager class,
okay.
the Sovereign class. Those classes of ship really are saved for the smaller islands and the more intimate destinations, and the larger ships really call on those bustling, exciting ports of call.
But I think we need to touch on, too, the Baltic, because St. Petersburg is very popular with well-traveled people. And something a lot of passengers may not know is that when you take a cruise, and most of the cruises to St. Petersburg are at least there overnight. Most, you know, some of the Russian cities being the most expensive in the world now. But you do not have to get a Russian visa, which is about $250 per person. So when you do shore excursions off of cruise ships, you eliminate the visa requirement.
Right. And I just want to add one little point. I don't know how much time we have left, but my little sister, the Azamara Club, when she calls on
that's a wonderful
St. Petersburg, the Hermitage closes. It opens back up for our Azamara guests.
Oh my!
And we're there for 3 and 4 nights.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
It's fabulous.
Yeah. How many passengers is that?
600.
600. Good. Good. Well, yeah, I've had some great feedback on that. So thanks for everything, Faith, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
You sure will.
Hi, it's the sea calling. Remember me? Sparkling water, horizons that go on and on. Plus, there's rock climbing, ice skating, and zip lines. Answer my call soon. But remember, I'm quite majestic, so please answer it royally.
Okay, the blood drive is in a few days. Here's what you need to do to prepare your body for the best donation experience possible.
Start stocking up on iron-rich foods like green leafy vegetables, lean meats, nuts, and berries. Here's a list of iron-rich foods that you can eat. Also, avoid fatty foods a day or so before you plan to donate. Be sure to get a good night's sleep before donation day. Drink plenty of non-caffeinated beverages like juice or water before and after you donate. Be sure you eat breakfast, and don't forget about lunch if you plan to donate in the afternoon.
Thanks for your help with the life-saving mission of the American Red Cross.
You are a hero.
There's something really popular that I want to make sure you're aware of, and we call it multi-generational traveling. The best way in the world to pack up the family, young and old, is on a cruise. There's truly something for everyone, of all ages, of all interest levels. Whether you want to be quiet or you want to rock climb wall, Royal Caribbean has the perfect fit for the family. Think about your next family reunion, 50th anniversary, birthday celebration, Christmas gift for the family to get away together. A cruise on Royal Caribbean has everything that your family's going to need for your next adventure.